You know what time it is. It's time to argue again. How do you feel about that, Jean-Luc?
No! No!
Hey there, Trekkies and Trekkers. My name is Michael, aka the TrekLad, and welcome back to another episode of Set a Course for Discourse, the YouTube series where I tackle the Star Trek community's unpopular opinions and hot takes, and I pick the best of them, and I have a go, and we argue a lot. Before we get going, if you can give this video a like and subscribe for more awesome Star Trek content and arguments coming at you every week. I promise that we will create some content that is perhaps a little bit more positive. That is coming soon, but right now I'm having too much fun with this content, so we need to keep on with it while it's hot, right? Hot, like a bad argument. Before we do get going, just a reminder that these opinions are unpopular opinions and hot takes. Please don't find these people on Twitter. Please don't give them shit for their opinion. It's intentionally done. It's all a bit of a laugh. We're all having fun. And if they do have these opinions, that's fine. People can have these opinions. It's totally fine. We don't censor people here. We're all here to have a good debate. So let's get on with it, shall we? Far Beyond the Stars is not a good DS9 episode. Boy, oh boy. It was. I mean, if you are looking at it from the perspective of it didn't tell a story in space and didn't deal with aliens and didn't deal with pew different planets and exploring strange new worlds, then maybe not. But the thing is, Star Trek hasn't just been about the exploration of new space and the exploration of new alien cultures and technologies and things like that. Star Trek has, from time to time, delved inward and looked at the human condition and our society, whether it be the future society or what Far Beyond the Stars does in telling a story about our past that is a shameful past. But you add into this that there is some high-brow or some high-end sci-fi concepts to this story. Far Beyond the Stars is what is reality? Is this real? Am I dreaming? The kind of stuff that you would expect from a Philip K. Dick book. So good sci-fi, high concept sci-fi, great drama, powerful message, incredible acting from Avery Brooks, and I don't care what people say that he was overreacting. Try having a panic attack and tell me if he's overreacting or not. Far Beyond the Stars for me is one of the finest episodes of Deep Space Nine, one of the finest episodes of Star Trek, because it looks inward instead of outward to the stars. Search for Spock is better than Wrath of Khan. I still love Wrath of Khan, but I like Search for Spock better. Better story and better use of the Genesis plotline. Can we not just like both? Can we not just like both? I mean, I always see The Search for Spock and The Wrath of Khan as being movies that need each other. I mean, you cannot have The Search for Spock without The Wrath of Khan. You can have The Wrath of Khan without The Search for Spock. I think The Wrath of Khan is the better movie. It's the best Star Trek movie. It's the most easily accessible of the Star Trek movies, and is probably the most basic of the Star Trek movies. It's just the easiest one to sit down and watch. The Search for Spock, in my opinion, deals with some heady themes that are very, very good. I will agree with you that the Genesis use in this in Search for Spock is better, but the Genesis torpedo was always just a MacGuffin in The Wrath of Khan anyway. It was just something that was bringing Khan and Kirk together. It was never supposed to be the center point of the story. And really, Genesis, even in Search for Spock, wasn't the central point anyway. Again, it was the device that brought everybody together. So I think that the Genesis plotline was used exactly the same in both movies. Better story? Debatable. and that's why we're talking about it. The Wrath of Khan, like I said, is a very basic revenge-driven story, very emotional. I think the beats were better. Spock's sacrifice had a lot of power to it, a lot of weight behind it. A lot of people forget how influential Wrath of Khan was, introducing those naval themes, the battles, really kind of reimagining Starfleet as we knew it at the time. I can't agree with you on this one, Chris. I will just say and cop out and basically say that I love Search for Spock as almost as much as I love the Wrath of Khan, but it's still Wrath of Khan for me. I liked DS9 when it was Babylon 5. I see what you did there. Well, the thing is, though, is DS9 was never Babylon 5, really, was it? And there's always been this long-standing rumour that J. Michael Straczynski's, probably butchered the pronunciation of that, sorry, buddy. He took his idea to Paramount and they said no, and then they came up with DS9. Now, TV studios are going to take ideas all the time and never really credit people for it. And it's possible that they took some of the ideas that he had for Babylon 5 and put them into Deep Space Nine. But ultimately, Babylon 5 wasn't as successful as Deep Space Nine, was it? It didn't go on for as long. I don't know if it was cancelled. It might have been cancelled. I'm not sure. But, I am a fan of all science fiction. I will watch every show and I'll always give it a chance. And I remember growing up with Babylon 5. And even when I was a 5-year-old kid, if you put Babylon 5 in front of me and Deep Space Nine, even as a 5-year-old kid, I would always choose Deep Space Nine. My grandparents raised me to love all sci-fi, and my granddad was more into Babylon 5 than he was Star Trek. But for me, it was always Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine was just told better. It was just had a shinier production, and it was just all round, in my opinion, a better effort than Babylon 5. Not to say that Babylon 5 is crap. It's not crap. It's just not as good as Deep Space Nine. But, appreciate your unpopular opinion, John. Thank you. Julian and Miles were not really good friends, just worked together occasionally and actually did not get on that well. This is difficult because we've seen them on screen actually hug. They hug. They have that tender moment right at the very end of What You Leave Behind. They had a rocky start. No doubt they had a rocky start. They were kind of rivals with that racquetball sport. They didn't particularly like each other. Miles thought Julian was annoying and didn't particularly want to hang out with him. But they grew up and became friends, and you could see them. They would constantly go to the holosuites together. They would always be together. They would probably work together occasionally, given the fact that each episode is kind of like you dropping in on a moment in the year of the show. So maybe they did only work together occasionally. But they did get on. They were good friends. They even built a model of the Alamo together. I don't think you build a model of the Alamo with someone that you don't get on with. I don't think so, anyway. I refused to watch Enterprise. In the first 20 minutes of the pilot, they managed to have a cowardly Klingon and Vulcans that were willing to lie about the Klingon's death to his own people and behaved angrily. Dishonourable and illogical aliens, not in my house. Your house is missing out. Yes, Enterprise gets off to a bit of a slow start, let's call it that, and Season 1 and Season 2 are not as good as the Enterprise that we ended up getting. But you wouldn't know that, because you've watched 20 minutes of the pilot and just went... Not doing that. You're missing out. Enterprise gets better. Season 3 and 4 are fantastic pieces of Star Trek. Season 4 is one of the best seasons of all of Star Trek, and I might be biased because I'm a Star Trek Enterprise fan, but truly, I think if you ask many people, they'll go, yes, Enterprise Season 4 was very, very good, and they pulled the plug on Enterprise. The things that you mentioned, cowardly Klingon, yeah, you're not wrong. The courier Klingon does act a bit strange, but remember, he's a courier. He's not a warrior. And Vulcans that are willing to lie about Klingon's death, that gets explained. I'm not going to tell you because I fully expect you to go and watch Enterprise, and it will explain why the Vulcan society are totally different. But there's so much Enterprise to kind of just draw a line after 20 minutes of the pilot and say, I'm not going to watch this. If that's what you want to do, great. But I really think you're missing out. Enterprise is a great prequel, definitely a product of its time, definitely has some moments that aren't particularly great. I'm currently rewatching season 1 right now, and there are some episodes that I'm just like, I might just skip this. But you stick with it, and season 3 and 4 will give you a lot. They'll give you a lot. So don't stop refusing stuff. That's not a very Trekkie attitude to have, is it, Jane? Come on. The Federation is the bad guys. From the perspective of the Cardassians, or the perspective of the Dominion, or the perspective of the Borg, or the perspective of the Romulans, or the perspective of the Ferengi, or the perspective of the Kazon, or the perspective of the Vidians, Voyager stuff, the perspective of the Breen, or the perspective of the Gorn, or the perspective of whoever. From anybody's perspective, the Federation could be seen as being the bad guys, but they're not, are they? They are the protagonist organisation of the franchise, and they are dedicated to peaceful exploration of space. Now, do they do things that are immoral at times, and do they have conundrums, and are they a perfect organisation? No, absolutely not. They are not a perfect organisation at all. However, from the perspective of the storytelling, they are the people out there who are doing good things. They've got a strong code of ethics, and I can't get on with this one. There are episodes and there are moments in shows that make you think about the whole Federation mantra, this idea of essentially assimilating cultures into their banner, and Michael Eddington says it very, very poetically in an episode of Deep Space Nine, where he basically says, we're no different from the Borg, the Federation. We assimilate cultures into us. And it's quite a poignant line, and it's quite true, really. We can't forget that Michael Eddington had kind of lost his way a little bit and was, about to die. So, from anybody's perspective, the Federation are bad guys, but they're not really, are they? They're the protagonists and they're the good guys. And we can get very deep into this and talk about, how the Federation is a mirror for American ideology and society, and, we can get all into that, but I'm not going to. I don't agree with you, Janice, and that's that, really. Sorry. I like Faith of the Heart. This isn't an unpopular opinion. This is you finally coming out and announcing to the world that you have a good taste in music. It's something that we're all still, catching up on at the moment. I came out a long, long time ago. My music taste, I'm very comfortable with my music taste preferences. And we'll get there eventually, but Faith of the Heart is a good song. So I'm with you. Voyager is the worst Star Trek because of all the lazy writing and wasted potential. I wouldn't say it's the worst Star Trek, personally, because I have shows that I would rank below Voyager. However, I would agree with you that the show really squandered a lot of potential. We've been there before. The idea of having a marquee crew integrate with a Federation crew kind of happened too easily. The torpedo issue, which, fact that they got to Earth and they were still totally fine. We know now in retrospect that there was a lot of wasted potential. The idea of Year of Hell was originally touted as being a full season arc where the ship goes an entire season just constantly under attack. So there were some good ideas floating around at the time. Unfortunately, though, the constraints of syndicated television, meaning that everything had to be episodic, meant that they just couldn't tell these stories. I'm currently rewatching Voyager. I'm 4 episodes in on season 1, and I'm not, I've watched Voyager before many times, but I'm not thrilled, to be completely honest with you. It takes a while to get into Voyager, and a lot of the episodes that I've already seen, we're 4 episodes in, are episodes that could have just happened in TNG. Season 1 should have been really the overarching theme of, you can tell episodic storytelling with an overarching theme, as I've said many times, but the Maquis versus Federation principles should have been the main headline storyline going through season 1. So I'm kind of with you. Some lazy writing, yes. Wasted potential, most definitely. But to call it the worst Star Trek, that might be your opinion. It's not mine. There are at least 3 shows that are probably worse than Voyager that I would put below Voyager. So that's me. Barclay is a toxic incel and honestly a really creepy character who sexualized all the women in his workplace and has violent fantasies about beating up Riker. He is not relatable for people who are introverted. He's offensive. There are aspects of Barclay's character that are problematic. His holodeck addiction, his inability to communicate with people properly, his attraction to members of the crew, and his replication of them in holodeck situations, is creepy, because it's essentially him kind of acting out his fantasies in a physical setting. However, while he may have demonstrated toxic behaviour, I think over the course of the season, he does learn that his behaviour is wrong. He is educated. He's not cancelled. He's educated. The crew help him see that what he's doing is wrong. His behaviour is not proper. And for the most part, that we see anyway, he puts a stop to that behaviour and stops being that toxic incel Barclay that you refer to. And if we look at his development, because his story carries on, we see him in First Contact in a cameo, not much to take from that, but we see him a lot more in Voyager, where he is heading up the Pathfinder mission to bring Voyager home, and he looks like he's still having issues, but it also looks like he is no longer engaging in that toxic behaviour, and I believe it's something that Deanna Troi actually mentioned in the episode where they're together, that he's coming along nicely and is grown well. So he grows as a character. Is his behaviour initially acceptable? No way, it's not at all. But instead of being cancelled like everybody seems to do today, the crew of the Enterprise acknowledge that he's a flawed character, and they help rehab his character. Do I know that he, when he's off screen, he goes to the holodeck and starts all over the place to, fantasies of his crewmates and things like that? I mean, he might still do, and if he does, then he has not learned his lesson, and he's absolutely toxic. And that will do it for this week's episode of Set a Course for Discourse. I hope you have enjoyed this episode as much as I have enjoyed dealing with these unpopular opinions and hot takes. Remember that these are just opinions. This is all a bit of fun. Please don't give people shit on Twitter for their opinions. Let's all just be nice to each other. At the end of the day, we're all here, and it's fine to debate these wonderful things. What do you think about the unpopular opinions and hot takes that I have dealt with in this episode? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't done so already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more awesome Star Trek content coming at you very soon. See you in the next video. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and live long and prosper. None of this would be possible without the support of my incredible patrons, so thank you to Albert Hogan, to That Guy, to Dan Decker, Chris Wickham, Jeff Owen, Johnny W. Staggs, Matthew C. Weiss, and Sam Nelson. Thank you so much for your support. You are keeping this channel going, and I cannot thank you enough. Would you like to become a patron? If you would, please go to patreon.com/TrekLad and give whatever you can. Everything will help keep the channel going, and I will become your best friend forever. That's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!